welcome back. And if you're new here and you've never seen my face before, thank you so much for clicking on this video. My name is Rachel, and here on this channel, we help each other get through this thing called life with Christ at the center. I cover all things faith, beauty, and lifestyle. So if that sounds like something that you want to see, please don't hesitate to click the subscribe button below. So as you can tell from the title of the video, we're gonna talk about how we can love God. And this specific video is a personal encounter that I had with him, something that he specifically told me. If someone came up to me and asked me if I love God, and I'm sure someone came up to you and asked you if you love God, the answer would be yes, straight away, like without a doubt, right? But I bet you this video will have you rethinking everything you thought you knew. So this all started because I was watching an interview with Prophetess Tiphani Montgomery, and she was actually giving the interviewer some tips on how, to get closer to God, how to work on his relationship with God, which I absolutely loved. Now I will put the clip here that I'm talking about, but in the video, she asked him a specific question, and we'll talk about it after you guys watch the clip.
Yeah. Is there any last words for the show or anything you want to share with the people that you feel as though they need to know in order? My goal this year how can we help people win? So I don't know. I already learned read the Bible every day, like water. But there's anything else around spiritual that people need to focus
I would
on?
say
And then
it's not just read the Bible. I want to maybe hone in that you're in a marriage now.
Yeah.
So be faithful to your spouse every day. Be intimate with your spouse every day.
Yeah.
Fall in love with your spouse every day. Right? That's what I want to. I don't want to just throw it in as just read the Bible, because who's going to do that? But fall in love with the bridegroom every day. Be intimate with the bridegroom every day. Have a conversation with your bridegroom every day. Say, how can I serve you better today? How can I love you better today? How do you want to be loved from me today? Like, those are real conversations you have with your spouse that you should be having with God. Real conversations, real language. Sit on the edge of your bed and say, God, how do you want me to love you today?
Yeah.
And how can I receive your love today? Start there.
Yeah.
So the advice she gave him was to get up and ask God every single day how we can show up and how we can love him today. So I was just there, watching the video, and I decided to ask him the question. I know God talks to us, and he talks to me, but I was really not expecting to hear an answer that quickly or that soon. But right when I asked him the question, he said to me, love me through other people. And he gave me a specific instruction about who he wanted me to also focus on loving. And when I tell you, I bawled my eyes out because I knew it was him. I always tell people one of the ways that we know it's God talking to us. As much as we want to believe we are kind-hearted persons and we are loving persons and whatever, if it's something selfless, he's got, it's not you. We by nature are very selfish. So if you know it's something that sounds completely selfless and it's going to take hard work and take you out of your comfort zone, chances are it's not you. So as I said, I bawled my eyes out, and it led me to want to make this video to think about how we can actually love him through other people. Now, why this blew my mind so much and why it was so astounding to me is that a lot of people, myself included, I think a lot of us, when we think about loving God, we're thinking about, we need to get up every day and sit with him and praise him and sing songs and read our Bible. I thought it would have had to be an action directly towards him, if you understand what I'm saying. We wouldn't even consider that, hey, showing someone else love. God himself feels that emotion. God himself feels that the kindness and the compassion that we show towards other people. And that is amazing to me. And here is kicker, the important part of why we do actually need to read our Bible. Because when God speaks to us, I don't know about you, but for me, a lot of the times He brings Bible verses to me to prove to me that He's the one saying this. So when He said to me, love me through loving other people, or love me through other people, what immediately came to me was the Bible verse in Matthew 25:31 to 40. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. So someone reading that would be like, God, what are you talking about? Jesus, what are you talking about? You are not there. I didn't see you. But God is letting us know that when we help others, we are really helping Him. Instead of looking at it as, oh, you're doing somebody a favor, we should be looking at it like, hey, God, I am loving you, and thinking and seeing God every time we do an action of service. And trust me, I'm speaking to myself when I say this, because it's not always easy to go out of your way to help people. So we're going to go through and discuss some ways of how we can actually go about loving God through people, and what does this actually look like. So the first thing is loving the unlovable. When we hear, oh, we should love people, it's very easy to think about loving people who have never done anything to us, people who are poor in spirit and in materialistic things, people who are sick, people who are, or even your own friends or family, people who you are close to and you've already formed an attachment to. But what if I told you that loving Christ, loving God, and the way how we love Him is by loving people who don't even like us, people who have hurt us, people who plan evil against us, people who have taken advantage of us, right? It is very easy to do things for someone that you actually care about, or someone who has done a favor for you in the past. But think about how hard it is for us to do something for somebody who to do something for somebody who made you angry, who disrespected you, who rejected you, who abandoned you, who lied to you, but God is still calling us to love. And loving the people who probably don't act in a way how you would have acted, right? Because a part of loving the unlovable is understanding that they don't have the mindset that you have, right? And they don't see things the way you do. Trauma has impacted them. When we stop looking at the thing that the person did and pay attention to the person, and pay attention to the possibilities of what may have affected them to cause them to act the way that they did, it will make loving them a lot easier. And as I say, God backs up everything He says through His Bible, through His Word. And so I'm going to read another Bible verse for you that brings this point home. So this is Luke 6:32 to 36. And it says, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and wicked. Be merciful as your Father is merciful. So as you can see here, to be considered a child of God, aside from you saying, "Oh, I accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior," and you're adopted into His kingdom, to be considered a child of God, you need to learn how to love, be kind, be a cheerful giver to people who don't have your best interest at heart. And we live in a world now where everyone is kind of like, "Oh, do me one shame on you, nobody not hurt me again, you can go on your ways, and me only show love to who show love to me." That's the kind of attitude that we have in this world right now. And it really just makes zero sense, because what kind of person, how can you say you're a good person if you're only doing good who doing good to the people who do good to you? And yes, that's expected from people of the world. But if you are saying that you are working towards being like Christ, right? We have to learn to be able to give our love and be merciful to people, even when they have done us wrong, even when we are in the right in a situation. And that is something I definitely had to learn, especially early on when I just surrendered to God. There, I had a whole situation where I had someone say something about me, and instead of letting it go and understanding that, listen, things are not, people are gonna always talk. This fight is not your fight, and you will know when God wants you to say something versus not say something. In that moment, I let my emotions get the better of me, and I did something out of the character of God. In loving God through people, we have to learn how to see people the way God sees them. And at the end of the day, everyone is God's creation. Every single one of us is God's creation. And God cares and loves every person, no matter what they did. And for you to sit and compare and say, "Oh, they hurt me, so they are a bad person," when you yourself, you're not a good person because you have done some things and God has forgiven you, but yet still you can't look and love a person and be kind to a person because they did something wrong. And I'm not saying it's easy. It is something that is going to require God, and we have to ask Him to change our hearts and heal our hearts, because it is through a healed heart that we are able to love people who have hurt us. The next way that we can love God through other people is meeting them where they are. I know, as disciples of Christ, or even if you haven't accepted Christ yet, but you're still getting to know Him and yet you're trying to figure out and make that decision, right? I know that it's easy for us to judge because we have the wisdom of certain things. It's easy for us to point fingers and want to distance ourselves from certain people because of their behaviors, which, yes, we get that and we understand. However, to love people, we will sometimes have to meet them out where they are. We will sometimes have to go to the places that they are so that we can connect with them. While, yes, I do understand this whole equally yoked conversation, which I will also do a video on, because a lot of people get things very misconstrued where being unequally yoked is concerned. But yes, we want to keep ourselves in alignment with Christians, but at the end of the day, the people that actually need us are not the ones who are coming to church every Sunday. Are some people who have never opened a Bible in their entire lives. And we want to avoid certain environments and avoid certain things and avoid certain places because we are on our walk, which I get. But at the same time, how can we expect to reach people when we do not go where they are? We have to meet them where they are in a physical sense, where environment is concerned, and we have to meet them where they are in an emotional sense and an empathetic sense and a mental and spiritual sense, right? If we look even at Peter and his encounter with Christ for the first time. God did a miracle for him that Jesus did a miracle for him that he would have related to, right? He would have related to a miracle in regards to fishing because that is what he was used to doing. That is his whole livelihood. That is what he's known his whole life. So a lot of the times we want to be quick to say we're evangelizing, and yes, we should spread the gospel. Yes, we should talk about the things that God has done for us in our lives. But sometimes loving people can simply just be giving them your presence, giving them your support, showing up to have a cup of coffee, showing up to brunch, giving them a hug, your very presence. We don't always need to say things all the time. We don't always need to be preaching all the time because a lot of the times people don't understand God. So you preaching to them is not going to make a difference. But the way how we reach them is by meeting them where they are and they're at the capacity that they are at and what they can understand. And that is why God gives us testimonies to be able to relate to other people. And that's why I love this Bible verse about what Paul said about him becoming all things to all men so that they can be saved. So you guys can go and read 1 Corinthians 9:19-23, but I'm just going to pick out the important parts that I'm trying to drive home here. So he says, though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. I have become all things to all people so that by all possible means I might save some. I do all this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. So as I said, sometimes loving people has nothing to do with you preaching to them, has nothing to do with you evangelizing. It is just you being loving and compassionate and meeting them where they are and empathetic. Because a lot of people have run from God because they have been hurt. And you meeting them with your judgmental, critical, beating them over the head with the Bible is not going to do anything. And it's important to have wisdom to know how to approach situations because every single person is different. And so one approach may not work for somebody, one approach might not work for this person, but this approach works for someone else, right? So we have to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit and ask for our discernment to be strengthened, to know how to approach certain people, to be able to reach them, and plant that seed so that God can water it and bring Him to them. Becoming all things to all men is you being so completely submitted and humble to the service of Christ in whatever way that might look like, as long as it does not compromise your beliefs or compromise you in a way that will cause you to sin or disobey God, then we should all strive to look for ways how we can reach people that won't necessarily just be reading a Bible verse to them. It's not you compromising with the world and becoming like the world, right? But it is you finding a way to be relatable, you finding a way to be humble, you knowing how to approach someone based on the hurt and the trauma that they have been through, you personalizing your encounter with someone instead of just treating everybody like a soul to check off their list to say, yes, I saved that one. You know what I mean? Loving Christ to other people will mean you will have to be respectful, humble, and empathetic. It may call you to go to places that does not make any sense for you as a Christian. Yeah, it may cause you to do things that will take you out of your comfort zone. As long as it is something that God agrees with and Jesus calls you to do, then by all means it needs to be done for that person to be healed and made whole through the power of Jesus Christ. And the last way here that we can love God through other people is making sacrifices. Now, as I said, it is easy to love people that love you, right? But the truth is that there won't always be a time when you have that thing to give or you feel to give. Something cannot be considered a sacrifice if it is comfortable for you. Something cannot be considered a sacrifice if it didn't take something from you, if it didn't make an impact. And Jesus himself said that greater love hath no man than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. So Jesus himself gave us the very foundation of what loving other people looks like, and that is sacrifice, because he gave his life for his friends. Oh, he laid down everything, the most costly thing of all, his entire life, so that we can be saved and we can be reconciled with God, and we could have taken back our authority, right? Loving God through other people is going to require difficulty, it's going to require hard work, it's going to require you pushing past the way that you feel. It's going to require trust in God himself. But I can tell you this for sure, as someone who has had to make some big sacrifices, that God will never, ever, ever leave you stranded. And if it is that he called you to do something and he has instructed you to do something, best believe that you will be taken care of. So a lot of us don't want to make the sacrifices because we feel like we're losing something, and we're giving up something, and we're giving control to someone else. Giving up security, we're giving up our pride, right? And all of those things have to go. All of those things have to die. So God calling us to love him through other people by making sacrifices is simply us just doing exactly what Jesus did. And as I said, he will never leave you stranded. And we need to, this is where calling on God and getting the grace from God and getting the strength from God and the will from God and the desire from God to do these things is important, because there are times when, for instance, I'm going to use myself as an example. Now, as I stated in my lazy video, which I'm going to put it up in the cards here so you guys can go watch it. I mentioned how I had issues with chronic pain. Now, a lot of the times with my chronic pain, I choose not to do something because I am preserving myself and my energy. So there is truth in the fact that I am physically limited, right? That there is truth in that. But there may be a time where I am physically limited and God is still asking me to do something. At that point, when my physical man is limited, I have to go to God and say, look, God, I cannot do this in my own strength right now. You see and know I'm in a pain right now and I can't get up. So if this is something you want me to do, you are going to have to help. So even through doing these things and loving him through other people, we realize that we are going to be drawing closer to him, because we're going to need to pull from him even more to do the things that he has called us to do, to love people in this way that to the world don't make any sense, because everyone says, love who love you, big up who big up you, support who support you. And that is not what God is saying. So guys, this was a beautiful personal experience that I had with God that I had to come and share with you guys, because I know that in this walk it can be so difficult, because we're even focusing on our own selves and trying to get through our own trials. How much more when he's calling us to look after his people and to love his people when they're hard to love, and love his people when we're out of capacity. So I want to encourage you today that while we go through our lives, let us look for little ways on how we can love God. And even I hope this inspires you as well to even ask God for yourself, like to say, hey God, how can I love you today? What small thing can I do? A lot of the times too, when we think about loving people, it does not have to be anything crazy or anything grand. It could be so much as you, it could be something as simple as giving a compliment to somebody who doesn't like a genuine compliment. It could be something as simple as that. When we focus on how we can love other people, it takes our attention away from the things that we are going through because we're too busy over here doing something nice that we can't sit down and think about, oh, we can't sit down and think about all the things that we've been stressing over because God already handling that. So stressing not make a difference. So I'm calling us guys to just be intentional every single day, looking for ways that we can be a little more loving and just simply asking God to help us and heal our hearts and open our hearts and cause us to see people the way He sees Him. Because it is through that that will give us the power and give us the grace and give us strength and the ability to do what He has asked us to do and what He desires from us. Leave a comment, interact with me, let me know your thoughts, any ways that you have struggled to love somebody. Let's talk about it. And thank you guys so much again for watching. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.